We all know the rule. Leave eggs out for too long and you're risking disaster. Most of us can't imagine eggs lasting more than a week or two without refrigeration. But the Amish? They've got eggs that can outlast your refrigerator's warranty. No electricity required. It's impressive how they've managed to hold on to these traditions while the rest of us are entirely dependent on modern appliances. For generations, the Amish have figured out how to keep eggs fresh for years. Yes, years. And they do it all without anything fancy or high-tech. Now, here's where things start getting really interesting. You might think that keeping eggs fresh for 15 years requires some high-tech gadgetry, but nope. One of the Amish's most trusted methods is about as low-tech as it gets. It's something as simple as lime water. Yes, lime, the kind you might squeeze into a glass of water on a hot day. But trust me, we're not making margaritas here. This trick is a total game changer and has been around for centuries. And guess what? It works. Lime water is, basically, a solution obtained by dissolving calcium hydroxide in water. If that sounds fancy, trust me, it isn't. Calcium hydroxide is the common name for slaked lime and has been used for everything from construction to food preservation. So, what does this have to do with eggs? Well, the Amish soak their eggs in this lime water mix, and that's when the magic happens. You see, eggs have tiny pores all over their shells that normally allow air and bacteria to sneak in, spoiling them over time. But when the eggs are placed in lime water, the solution seals up those pores, creating an airtight barrier. No air gets in, no bacteria gets in, and suddenly your eggs are capable of surviving for months, even years, without going bad. It's like giving the eggs a little suit of armor. Bacteria can't win here. Now here's a fun historical tidbit. Lime water preservation wasn't invented by the Amish. That method has been used since medieval times, way before anyone ever heard of a refrigerator. They had to be resourceful if they wanted their food to last until the summer, and the lime water happens to be part of just how they used to do it. So in a way, all the Amish are doing is keeping these customs alive. And they have perfected a lot of the things that most of us have forgotten about. It's almost funny to think that something as simple as lime water can do what modern refrigeration can't. Most of us freak out when our fridge malfunctions, but the Amish have a solution that doesn't need electricity. In fact, this method could very well outlast your fridge, and probably with fewer repairs along the way. The more I learn about this, the more it makes me rethink how dependent we've all become on appliances. But what's really impressive is the scale at which the Amish do this. They're not just preserving a dozen eggs here and there. Oh no, they're preparing for the long haul. In a year, a family might preserve thousands of eggs using lime water, ensuring they've got a steady supply no matter what. It's a level of preparedness that's hard to wrap your head around unless you've seen it in action. I can hardly keep abreast of the dozen eggs I buy from the store each week, but the Amish? They have it all sorted out, with their eggs just waiting to be used, safely tucked away in lime water. But wait, there's more. Another odd, yet brilliant way the Amish keep eggs in pristine condition for what feels like forever is oiling them. Now you may be thinking, wait, oiling? Like preparing an egg for a massage? Well, sort of. The Amish use mineral oil, a simple, harmless substance, to coat their eggs. And the results are incredible. Here's how it works. As I mentioned before, eggshells are full of tiny little pores that let air and unwanted bacteria inside. Over time, this is what causes the eggs to spoil. But with oil, those pores get completely sealed. It's like putting the egg in a protective bubble that blocks out oxygen, keeping it from turning into that stinky, sulfur-scented science experiment we all dread. If you've never heard of this method, you're not alone. It seems wild at first. I mean, who would think to slather their groceries in oil? And for the record, don't try this with your milk. But the Amish have known about it for a long time, and even modern homesteaders are rediscovering this technique. Mineral oil is cheap, readily available, and doesn't spoil the eggs. It just keeps them nice and cozy. In fact, more and more people are trying it out because, let's face it, there's something a little bit magical about having eggs that could outlast the milk in your fridge. I actually tried this once just out of curiosity. Who wouldn't want to test out a trick that might save on a last-minute grocery run? So I went to the local pharmacy and grabbed a bottle of mineral oil. You can find it in the skincare section, believe it or not, and started oiling up some eggs. Admittedly, it felt a bit weird, almost like I was prepping the eggs for a deep fry, but a few weeks later, those eggs were still as fresh as the day I bought them. Who knew a little grease could work wonders outside the kitchen? Here's a fun fact for you. This idea of coating food to preserve it isn't new. Way back in the day, people would cover cheese and even meat in fat to make it last longer. In fact, the whole idea of sealing food from air is a preservation technique that's been around for centuries, even if we've largely forgotten about it in the age of plastic wrap and vacuum sealers. What makes oiling especially cool is that it is, well, incredibly simple. There is no complicated science behind it, no long processes. Just apply some coating to the egg and forget about it. Also, it is a technique anyone can try at home without having special tools or ingredients. All you need is a bottle of mineral oil, and then you will have eggs that can last you up until winter or even more. Now let's switch gears a little bit and talk about another great, fascinating egg preservation trick in the Amish playbook: vinegar. That same sharp, tangy liquid you might drizzle on fries or toss into a salad is also helping the Amish preserve their eggs for the long haul. And trust me, this method is much more useful than just making your potato chips more delectable. The basic concept of using vinegar preservation is simple. The eggs are given a very short dip in vinegar bath, and the acidity in vinegar works by breaking down the bacteria with a protective shield around the shell, much like an armor upgrade. The soaked eggs are now ready to be left out far longer than a normal fridge carton wrapping of eggs. I always thought vinegar was something used just for cooking and possibly some cleaning, but I never knew it had such amazing preservation powers. Apparently, it has pretty serious history behind it. I read that Roman soldiers used it to keep their food fresh while marching on these long, brutal marches. Amazing, huh? To imagine such tough warriors preserving their rations, just like the Amish do with their eggs, hundreds of years later. But wait, there's more. Vinegar's usefulness isn't limited to just eggs. It's one of those ancient kitchen hacks that people have relied on for all sorts of things, from pickling vegetables to preserving meat. I'm sure we've all been a little suspicious of food sitting in vinegar, but the Amish know better. And apparently, so did the Romans. If it was good enough for them, well, it'll probably keep your eggs fresh too. Now, I haven't attempted the vinegar dip with eggs myself yet, but after reading about it, I'm kind of tempted. Think about a hoard of eggs locked away, smelling like vinegar, yet remaining fresh for months. And when the apocalypse comes, or you just forget to go to the grocery store, you are the one sitting on the gold stash of preserved breakfast. What really makes eggs go bad, you ask? Well, we know the not-so-fresh surprise when you crack open that egg, and it is less than fresh. The main culprits are bacteria, air, and moisture. Eggs, despite the genius of nature designing them, have some weaknesses. Bacteria can easily find their way into those little pores in the shell. Moisture can also find its way in and give rise to the perfect setting for mold. And let's not forget air. Oxidation is not your friend when it comes to keeping eggs fresh. Here's where the Amish egg-preserving methods shine. While most of us are shoving our eggs into the fridge and hoping for the best, the Amish are actively conquering these enemies like seasoned warriors. The lime water bath seals up the pores in the shell, so bacteria can't get in. The oiling method locks the door and throws away the key. No air or moisture allowed. The vinegar dip zaps bacteria before it even has a chance to enter. These aren't tricks, They're solutions to problems most of us don't even know exist. I used to think my refrigerator was the egg-saving hero in my life. Little did I know, it's kind of an overhyped sidekick. Sure, refrigeration slows things down, but it doesn't exactly prevent spoilage. Here's a little fun fact. The eggs you buy at the supermarket, they have already been washed and treated, stripping them of their natural layer of protection. So even though your eggs might look bright and new on the outside, inside, they might already be halfway to expiration before you bring them home. The Amish need none of that. Only a little knowledge and basic ingredients such as lime or oil to preserve their eggs longer than we thought possible. No fridge needed. Wherefore an old egg is thrust into a bucket of lime water and dipped into oil at random or on principle. The Amish treat its selection with respect. And these indeed may apply what are actually described as aesthetic standards, the beauty contest, whereby only the plumpest or best eggs enter the haphazardly distributed lime liquid. Fresh is the thing. They leave alone several days old egg. They also do a crack test. If there's